Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. This webinar is recorded, so it is also going to be posted on CARB's ICT Innovative Clean Transit Regulations website, and also the presentation will also be posted. I'm Yaqin Chao. I'm the manager of the Zero Emission Truck and Bus section here at the California Air Resources Board. My team, as you all know, that we implement the innovative clean transit regulation. And while we thank all transit agencies, your commitment to bring clean transportation to our Californians, we also understand that occasionally you may need some technical help and the support for you to know what kind of success cases there are, and also what kind of programs that utilities are offering. So once again, today we are very fortunate that we have a PG&E support again, and also we also have an elite fleet, Fresno County Rural Transit Agency, with us here today to share their knowledge and the experience. So without further ado, I want to hand this over to Dean. So PG&E is going to take us through every step, and also Moses will also share his experience in his microgrid, and also technology assistance, also the entire transportation electrification process and experience. So Dean, it's yours.
Sure. Thank you, Chung. So first we're going to go over a safety message, and then Moses is going to talk to us about his new facility. I'm going to talk about future fleet expansion, and then we've got Michael from our Flex Connect team. He's going to talk about a new groundbreaking technology that PG&E is pioneering. There's only 3 utilities in the US with this technology, and we're leading the way at PG&E. And I will give you an update on the EV fleet program that I think a lot of you guys have participated in for your transit facilities, and our new EV fleet advisory service. Okay, so first off, going to talk about safety. Safety is very important at PG&E, and unfortunately, one of my colleagues went on vacation on a cruise and suffered a heart attack. And unfortunately, he passed away. But I thought in his memory, let's remind everyone the warning signs of a heart attack. So if you have pain or discomfort in your chest, lightheaded, nausea, vomiting, jaw, neck, or back pain, or discomfort or pain in your arm, your shoulder, and shortness of breath, these are all signs of a heart attack, and you should seek medical support right away. Dial 911. It's better to be safe than sorry. And unfortunately for my colleague, he didn't get to medical support in time, and he passed away on his vacation with his family. Okay, but let's move on to a happier note. Moses, why don't you tell us your story of your new facility that you've got started?
Great. Thank you very much, Dean. And I welcome everybody this morning. And I'm really pleased to be here today because I want to share with you our journey through this process. And next slide, please. It really started back 2016 when we got our first electric vehicle, but the journey continues even as of today. But just from a broad perspective, I want to give you the lay of the land, literally, for Fresno County. It is approximately 6,000 square miles, and we operate in 13 incorporated cities in Fresno County, excluding Clovis and Fresno. And also we provide service to 39 unincorporated communities. We have 6 to 7 fixed routes that are to and from Fresno, from these outerlying areas, east and west, and we also have several college routes as well. And it's important to note the proximity of these routes and locations, as we have some rural cities that are 42 miles away from Fresno. We also have Coalinga at your bottom left-hand corner of the map. It's 64 miles one way. And I share these miles with you because those are important points to consider, especially when you're sizing your fleet, one. Two, when you're considering the range for the batteries and the type of vehicles that you're obtaining, and ultimately, where the location's going to be for those EV chargers in the future. As we know, we have a mandate to transition to zero-emission vehicles, and FCRTA started this process back in 2016. And again, this map for us is very critical because we provide service Monday through Saturday, and we provide it with both fixed route and demand response in all of these areas and the 13 incorporated cities and the 39 unincorporated communities as well. Next slide, please. Our current fleet makeup is 127 vehicles, and 44 are powered by CNG, and they're slowly going by the wayside. They're breaking down. A lot of those CNG vehicles, just by way of background, were converted from diesel engines, which some of you have experienced that as well. And so we're in the process of transitioning those out. 33 are powered by electric batteries, and you can see some of the vehicles that we have down below, and I'll address that in a minute as to why we have different brands of the vehicles. FCRTA does not or has ever operated any diesel-powered vehicles. That's just been a policy and a directive that our board and agency has taken over the years. And really, our goal is a really tenacious one. Our goal is by 2030 to have 100% EV fleet vehicle. If you look at the four vehicles that are illustrated below, a BYD bus, a Chevy Bolt, a Zenith van, a Proterra. We know the history of Proterra. I don't know if any of you know the history of Zenith vans, but they started back, I believe, in 2016, and we purchased 5 of those, and they had a battery range of anywhere from 80 to 110 miles. I hate to say this, but they're no longer in existence. We got some 2016 and 2018 models. And our Chevy Bolts are still in existence with a microtransit program and also some smaller commuter routes that we do on demand response. Our workhorse is the BYD bus. We have 7 of those. Some are 35 foot and some are 30 foot. And we also recently converted some of those, 3 of them, with inverters so that they could accommodate our level 3 charger, which I'll talk about here in a bit. But the reason we wanted to try a diverse type of fleet is so that we could, 1, test the battery range, 2, that we wouldn't be locked into just one brand in the event that it failed. And we all know about failures, but we learn from those failures and we go on and we go with the ones that are consistently good and provide the service with least amount of breakdown time. Next slide, please. Our transition plan really started back in 2013 when we started to look at electric vehicles. And then we developed a vehicle microtransit plan in 2020 and essentially wanted to have a path forward. Fortunately, we had a grant, sustainable planning grant from one of our partners, collaborative partners, Caltrans, and we were able to provide several of these studies. Another study that we were able to obtain was in 2022, and that was an electrical grid analysis study. And the reason for this important study, and we had AECOM do the study, they were the awardees. We put out an RFP, and we wanted to assess the grid. As you recall from that map I showed you earlier, 6,000 square foot mile, that's a lot of area. And we didn't want to make the front page headlines if we put in a charger or multiple chargers in one location and all of a sudden the power went out in an unincorporated community, I didn't want to make headlines with that. So we wanted to make a conscientious effort and not impede or load or overload the grid based on that. So we did an electrical grid analysis that told us what the capacity was on the grid. Capacity is a key word, which I'm sure you'll hear PG&E personnel tell you about that. And capacity and load analysis are really critical. And we have so many sites in the rural areas that we wanted to make a fair assessment and an accurate assessment as to what those off-grid connections were and where those transformers are that could take on some of these charging units in the future. It's all part of our electric micro transit plan and also the grid analysis, which produced a lot of these results. In 2016, we started to purchase the electric vehicles, as I indicated earlier, and we also started to take a look at microgrid feasibility studies as well, because we wanted to try to make the best use of alternative energy and didn't want to be codependent on the grid. We wanted to be as independent as possible, but more importantly, we didn't want to impede the existing capacity of the grid capability and also what the costs would be for us off-site and on-site improvements to our facility, and also what PG&E would have to encumber on our behalf to make the connections. And the location where we selected, there was zero capacity to the grid. So we really had to work with PG&E, and not that we wouldn't, but we really had to have a plan and orchestrate our path forward to develop the site so that we could have an effective system. And last Friday, we had a ribbon cutting, I'm proud to say. So we're really in a good state of mind and spirit, and we really wanted to share this information with you. We also installed some solar trees and some EV chargers in city halls, and these are independent of the grid, basically taking up parking lots. We've tried many things, and sometimes you have to take on some of these projects that have not been tested. And fortunately for us, we've tested a lot of product, a lot of infrastructure, and that's how you get to the point where we're at today. Next slide, please. Our concept really revolves around a microgrid resiliency hub concept, and we're currently doing a couple studies with our planning agency, FCOG, the RTPA, Fresno Council of Governments. And essentially what this does is it takes into account solar, it takes into account battery storage, and it also takes into account electric vehicles and other amenities that would provide a microgrid resiliency hub. And what this translated into was our maintenance operations facility. Next slide, please. This is our new maintenance and operations facility, and we broke ground in 2018, and this gives you a highlight of some of the amenities that we have on board with it. And it's a small site plan that you see there, but you see 3 bus ports. We have approximately 1,200 solar panels that are 405 to 415 watt panels. We can produce up to 1.2 megawatts of energy there. We also have 2 battery systems, battery storage systems that can hold 373 kilowatt hours of storage, and that is in tune with our EV chargers. And we have 32 chargers there, 1 level 3 charger and 31 level 2 chargers. Next slide, please. This is the open ground of the maintenance facility as it started. Going back, that was a long time ago, but believe me, the journey is well worth it. No pain, no gain, as they say. And this is 7.5 acres, pardon me, and 3 parcels that we combined. So there's land use involved in it. We also had federal, state, and local funding. So we had to do a NEPA environmental clearance and also CEQA clearance. And these can be done. We also did a phase 1 and a phase 2. I'm not going to get into the details of all that, but if you want information on some of the process, please let me know, or you can ask the question and I can answer it later. Next slide, please. Some of the off-site and on-site work that was done at our site, we were very fortunate to work with 2 teams of PG&E, one for the building, and that was under Rule 15 and 16, which will be covered later by PG&E personnel, and also another one under Rule 21, which is a transit operator. We were able to work with PG&E under that. And essentially, we had to have 2 meters, 2 switch gears, and 2 locations for the power because the EV chargers require a separate meter, and also the building required a separate meter. So this was really a complicated, complex project, and there was a lot of pivots along the way, a lot of learning, and a lot of education. And I'm sure a lot of the PG&E personnel and their outsourced teams were very capable and worked with us throughout the process. It's not an easy task, but if I can do it with a staff of 4, all of you can do it as well. Next slide, please. This is some of the on-site construction that we had to take on to develop and produce our 3 bus ports to accommodate the chargers and the solar panels. And there was a lot of cabling for the electrical conduits that went into effect. And this just shows you some of the work that was being done. The 7.5 acres is covered primarily with concrete, not asphalt, because we wanted to have a return on investment. So it all had to be very calculated, engineered. We had 2 engineers on site because the building was with a separate engineering company. The bus ports and solar panels and EV charging was with another engineering company. Next slide, please. This is some of the other work. If you really take a look at that bottom left slide there, you can see all those conduit lines that are being run underneath this facility. I couldn't tell you the miles of electrical conduit that had to be run. We also had to accommodate what PG&E in their assessment of our facility required for the on-site transformer. We had to have 2 transformers. Keep in mind that this facility, because we're under Rule 21, had 2 components, 2 meters, as I indicated earlier, 2 switch gears, and we also had to have 2 different connections to the off-site power source, one for the building and one for the chargers and the solar. Ours was a little more complicated. However, we definitely accomplished a Herculean task. Next slide, please. This is again some of the underground work that was being done, and you can see some of the information here. We try to take pictures along the way just so that we would have a memory of what we went through. Next slide, please. This is part of the panel for the solar that we put in a ponding basin. You can see there to the right, bottom right, and also the building on the left hand, bottom left side. Next slide, please. This is part of the Rule 15 and Rule 16. One is for the gas, because we do have a Generac generator, and the other rule is for the electrical connections. These are all the underground cabling conduit that we had to do. And you can see down below in the bottom left, that gray panel, that's a switch gear. It took 16 to 18 months to get here based on the supply chain. Next slide, please. I'm trying to move it along here so I'm at my 20 minutes here. And this is the solar bus port with 2 373 kilowatt of storage battery. And you can see these are 16.8 foot height bus ports. And down to the bottom is all the electrical configuration necessary to operate the solar panels with the EV chargers. Next slide, please. And this is another part of the electrical components that were necessary to take on this massive project that we undertook. Next slide, please. This is the energy management system and the battery storage. And this is an ACD system where we can run independent of the grid based on the storage capacity of our 2 batteries as well. And this is a good diagram because it gives a layperson like myself a good understanding of how the flow is there and necessary. And as we submit engineered plans to all the permitting agencies, we have an understanding of what we're getting involved with. Next slide, please. And we just celebrated our ribbon cutting last Friday. You can see the finished product there and all the individuals there. We did have 6 PG&E representatives there, and also CARB. Yachun Chow made it down from Sacramento. We had Caltrans there. We had the Congress Assembly, everybody. Next slide, please. The most important part of this whole thing, believe it or not, is the coordination and collaboration. And if you look at those logos, they're more than logos. There are representatives behind each of those logos that really represent a commitment to success and finishing product. And you recognize some of these logos and keep that in mind when you're going forward and taking on a project like this. You got to work with your collaborative partners and coordinate their efforts. Thank you very much. Next slide. These are the 3 buses, and I would be remiss if I didn't give credit to Janelle Del Campo, the Deputy Director for FCRTA. She was essentially the project manager assigned to this project, and my hat's off to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. That was great. I'm going to talk to everyone about future fleet expansion. Let me turn on my video here. There we go. So future fleet expansion. Maybe you've already done a pilot. Maybe you're looking to do a second or third phase of your project. So I'll talk to you about the different items: billing, your site plan, chargers. We call it BTM, behind the meter. So this is infrastructure the customer is going to own, how to request more power, and your service planning application. So first off, lowering your electric billing costs. How do you do it? Well, with EV charging, we have a business EV rate. It's going to save you at least 25% compared to any other PG&E rate. This does separate charging from your other facilities, maybe your main building where you keep your offices and your maintenance. So it does provide for a second EV meter, or what's going to be happening in the future is EV sub-metering. We're trying to get that started too, so that we can collect charging information from your smart chargers. So they have to be able to talk to PG&E. Okay. The business EV rate is a monthly subscription, so there's no demand charges. You tell PG&E what your subscription level is, and that's what you get charged each month. Okay. It is a time of use rate. So as you can see, during the course of the day, the rate stays very low. But from 4 to 9, that's our peak at PG&E. So on the business EV rate, you're going to pay more than off-peak or super off-peak. This is essentially right now is about double. When you're setting up your charging, you want to keep your load fairly consistent, your KW, your load, okay? And that'll keep your costs down. All right, for your site plan, I pulled a diagram of a real PG&E yard, just like behind me. This is a real PG&E yard with chargers installed in it for our electrification of our fleet. So consider strategic phases for your entire fleet becoming electric. So you may want to break it up into 2 or 3 phases for electrification. Align your vehicle deployment with your parking layout. So as you see here, for our larger trucks, we have pull-through slots for them, okay? And for the medium and light duty, they've got side parking spots that they'll pull into or back into. Certainly consider, where is the port on your vehicles? Is it at the front? Is it at the back? Is it at one of the four corners? For some manufacturers, you can tell them where you want your EV charging port to be located. A lot of schools do that. They say, I want my port right next to the driver's door. I want it on the left at the front of the vehicle there, and they can accommodate that. Certainly consider adding more charging capacity or ports, as you go through your different phases, and explore options. If you're in an area that is space constrained, or if you have plans to add solar or battery storage, consider that in your strategic plan. As you saw with our prior webinar with Pat Carr, she was space constrained, and so she put her charging infrastructure up above the buses, right? Which was rather innovative. That's kind of a European model there, but that's how she addressed space constraint for her charging infrastructure. Okay. Certainly consider for your additional phases, are you going to go with larger chargers, more ports? There's pros and cons to both. So if you go with larger chargers, you're using the same footprint as before. Your infrastructure cost is lower, but your billing cost is going to be higher because you're going to have bigger chargers putting out more power. You can consider adding additional chargers to support more vehicles. This does raise your infrastructure costs though, right? Or you could do something like in the picture here below, which is add more ports to your existing chargers. So you're utilizing the existing infrastructure and you're adding more charging capacity. So certainly consider that as you do your layout and configuration of your facilities. Here's some behind the meter examples. A best practice is to future-proof your switchgear. So this is 4,000 amp switchgear, which requires on a 480 volt circuit, a bus duct. So this area right here, going between the green transformer and the gray switchgear is bus duct. So this is 4,000 amp bus duct. This is future-proofing this site with the largest type of amperage that you can go on a secondary service with PG&E. Another thing is while you're trenching and that trench is open up, go ahead and put in your spare conduit now, right? And this makes it very easy to grow. As you can see here, one of the things that we do with at our PG&E sites is we put in this magnetic tape here. This tape allows us to locate these lines afterwards. After this trench gets filled in, there's dirt on top, maybe there's asphalt, we're able to locate where our conduit is. I've had a few customers, commercial customers, where they put in conduit and for whatever reason, the project got stalled. And then they came back later on, the field is full of weeds and they're looking around for the conduit and no one had put in the tape that shows where the conduit is. So they were literally stomping around with their boots and trying to knock down weeds to see where's the conduit coming up out of the ground so they could kind of figure out line of sight of where the conduit was. This is my attempt at creating an AI image here on the right. So I don't know if it turned out okay or not. But when you finish your EV pilot, and you can request a second EV service to your facility. So maybe your pilot is on your house meter, right? Where your maintenance building is and your offices. And now you're saying, hey, I'm all in. I'm ready to start with my initial phase here of electrifying my fleet. The pilot worked out well. So you can request a second EV service from PG&E for your facility. That service can be primary or secondary. Primary is where you're going to own the transformers to step down the voltage. Secondary is where PG&E provides those transformers to step down the voltage. Okay. We do have a Rule 29, as you heard, that Moses uses. It supports a new dedicated EV electric service. So you can only do Rule 29 one time at your facility, right? It's only for a new dedicated EV service. If you choose not to go with a new dedicated EV service and you just want more power for your existing facility, you're not going to take advantage of our business EV rate by having a second meter, then as Moses said, you can do a Rule 1516 request to PG&E. These transformers will be sized though based on your load, okay? Quite often I get asked, well, if I want a primary electric service, how much load do I need? So to qualify for a primary electric service with PG&E, your load has to be above 500 kW, okay? So it's rather substantial for that type of load, above 500 kW, okay? And here is the URL for requesting service from PG&E Service Planning Department. And if you need assistance with your application, we have a phone number for you too, okay? Let's turn it over to Michael here. He's going to talk to you about some brand new technology that PG&E is pioneering. Michael, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Dean, for that intro. Part of the flexible service connection team here at PG&E, and this is a new program offering that PG&E is offering to customers. I'm going to walk you through the technology, the process involved to be part of flexible service connection here at PG&E. Next slide, please. Just for context here, right? So within PG&E territory, there's an anticipation that there's going to be a lot of load coming into the system, and there may not be enough capacity to serve those loads, right? So if you look to the left-hand side, you will see the projection of load growth from 2024 up to 2042, and most of those load growth, like you've heard from previous speakers, from Dean and Moses, they're going to be coming predominantly from EV adoption. And the utility has to be ready to serve those new loads. And therefore, this necessitates the development of new tools and processes to be able to coordinate those new load and then to be able to serve them reliably from the grid. And to this effect, PG&E is collaborating with Schneider and Microsoft to develop a technology platform, which is called DERMS, DER Management System, to be able to use that platform, that technology platform, to orchestrate load, to be able to serve new load dynamically based on real-time grid conditions. Next slide, please. And so one of the things to note about flexible service connection is that this is a bridging solution that will allow customers with flexible load, that is load you can throttle up and down, to be able to connect to the system without having to wait for a service upgrade. So previously, without this platform, customers with load constraint, with capacity constraint at their location, will have to wait for about 2 to 4 years until that capacity upgrade is completed. They can now be allowed to come online. But now with this type of program with flexible service connection, we can then bring those flexible load to the system without having to wait for system upgrade. Again, also to emphasize, this is a bridging solution pending on when capacity upgrade will be completed. And in terms of customer value, with flexible service connection, customers can now avoid the long wait times, which typically can span between 2 to 4 years. And then we can now bring customers who are capacity constrained, we can bring them sooner and then allocate to them flexible capacity based on real-time grid conditions. Now, in terms of distribution value, we can now unlock additional capacity, right, based on real-time grid conditions, because now we can now serve more load with existing infrastructure. And in terms of energy system value, right now, with flexible service connection, you can have timely energization of sites with capacity constraint, and also helps to drive cost down. And so these are some of the values you have from flexible service connection. Next slide, please. And so this slide is showing us a real-world example of a site that is capacity constrained. So to the left-hand side, this is what you're going to get from your load limit letter, for example. And so you see for this site, it's capacity constrained to operate at 20% of the capacity request, right? So for this particular developer, the request is about 3.8 megawatt capacity. But the planning limit says, oh, you can only have 20%, which is about 0.7 megawatt of what you are asking for. So this customer, if it's not an existing customer, so for an existing customer, it will mean that between April to October, that customer will have to operate 20% of what is asking for, right? But if it's an existing customer, the customer might decide to wait until the capacity upgrade is completed. And so from our flexible service connection to the right-hand side, you will see the analysis we've done to show the customer based on real-time grid condition. I can talk about how we got into the result later on, but based on real-time conditions, also taking into consideration other future loads that are potentially going to come at that side, we can still allow you to be served 90% of the time of what you are asking for. The only time, for example, this customer will be constrained is between July to September, as you see on the screen to the right-hand side. And even within that time, you can still allow them to be served some amount of capacity, right? So instead of having the customer to wait until the capacity upgrade is done with flexible service connection, you will see that we can serve the requested capacity more than even 90% of the time on average. Next slide, please. So this is another scenario of another customer. These are real life examples. And for this particular customer is asking for 5 megawatt. And you will see that to the left-hand side, you will see during the daytime from 3 a.m. to about 9 p.m., the customer will be constrained to operate at zero capacity. There's nothing available to serve that customer. And so with flexible service connection, based on our analysis to the right-hand side, you will see that we can unlock additional capacity for the customer to be served even during the daytime. And sometimes you could serve them up to 70% of the requested capacity, especially during the winter time. The only time that there's a significant constraint is during the summertime, when we can still afford to serve them between 30 to 45% of their requested capacity. So you could see how much of value flexible service connection is helping to unlock, right, using existing infrastructure. Like I said previously, this is a bridging solution pending on the time when our capacity upgrade will be completed. So with this particular customer, we can bring them on sooner and we can unlock additional capacity for them above the planning limit, and for this case is 0%, underscoring the value of flexible service connection to our customers. The next slide. And so, like I said previously, PG&E is collaborating with Schneider and Microsoft to develop a technology platform called DERMS, DER Management System, that can allow customers with eligible loads, mostly flexible load, to connect sooner by dynamically managing their consumption based on grid availability and real-time grid conditions. And so that technology platform, DERMS, take as input customer load and DR data, the network connectivity data, historical data, also including weather data. And also, we're also expected to have into the platform telemetry, that's the loading condition at that site, into that platform. And the outcome of this platform is that it's going to produce dynamically available capacity, that it will provide dynamic site limit based on what I shared previously in the previous slide, showing to you within a particular day, we can be able to unlock additional flexible capacity for that particular site. So this is the technology platform that PG&E is investing to be able to help customer with eligible load to come online sooner, pending on when capacity upgrade will be completed. And let's go to the next slide. This will give me opportunity to talk about the architecture. So this is the site configuration. And you see to the left-hand side, in this particular case, the feeder is the one that is being constrained. So depending on where the site is located, there are different types of constraint. It could be, the site could be constrained at the feeder head or at the bank level, or even a line. Any of these or combination of these can be the constraint that's limiting the customer from coming online. So with this architecture, you will see, for example, on the left-hand side, you will see the PG&E DERMS technology platform. And so on the left-hand side, you will see that with our DERMS platform, we can now send dynamic limit, which is actually a day ahead. So for example, 8 a.m. today, we're going to send dynamic limit to the site for the site to operate with the next day. So we send a day ahead scheduled hourly limit to the site. Now you will see that to the right-hand side, the customer will have to have at site an energy management system that manages the consumption on that site. That's one of the requirements to be able to participate in this kind of program. You have to have eligible load, flexible load, and number two, at site, you need to have a local site controller or an energy management system to be able to manage your consumption at site. And you see for this customer, for this particular scenario, you have a combination of EV charging station and battery limit. Now, so we send day ahead scheduled hourly limits to the site. One other requirement, I've mentioned two requirements: eligible flexible load. Number two, customer energy management system has to be at site that manages consumption. Number three requirement to participate at this site is also when you have agreed with the result of our analysis, then you have to talk to PG&E approved aggregator. So we have a list of aggregators that you have to work with. Now, what's the function of that aggregator? For some sites, they speak a particular type of protocol, a communication protocol, maybe a Modbus protocol at site. And our DERMS is speaking 2030.5 protocol. So the aggregator will help to translate the message being sent using IEEE 2030.5 to a compatible language at site. So that's what the aggregator does, right? It helps to translate the message from one protocol to another. And also in between this link, there are real-time emergency controls, meaning that if for any reason there's an emergency or a contingency situation, we send real-time emergency control to the site. And so this is the general architecture of what a flexible service connection site looks like as it interacts with our DERMS platform. And that's a lot of information, but we could answer some questions during the Q&A session. The next slide. So this next slide, this is a real life scenario of a site that came online, and this site belonged to Pepsi, right? As you can see on the site detail, this is for Pepsi Bottling Company, and you will see that for this particular case, the requested capacity was 4.5 megawatt, right, to the right-hand side. But this site has an existing constraint. This site is only allowed to operate with 1 megawatt between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. daily. And also, this site is only allowed to operate 3 megawatt from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. daily. You could see the site, you could see the constraint on that particular site. Now, depending on utilization, right, this is definitely a constraint that will make any developer not to come online. But with flexible service connection, let's see how much we can unlock for them. So this customer enrolled with flexible service connection, And when this report was generated, which is June 2025, we were able to unlock additional 37 megawatt hour for that month. And from the time the site came online till now, we've been able to unlock, I think this is even higher because this was generated by June. We've been able to unlock a total of 738 megawatt hour. And that translates to, for that month, 18.3 kilo miles and 369 kilo miles in total. And you will see that you will see the value of flexible connection helping to, number one, bring in sites sooner, unlock additional capacity to be able to serve the load. And also, if you look at the last metric here, 88% of the time we've been able to add additional capacity to help serve this load. Next slide. And so this slide is showing responsibility in terms of PG&E responsibility versus the customer responsibility. And here, one of our responsibility is to perform the site analysis, right? So we're going to perform the site analysis to determine if it's going to be a suitable site or not. So that's one of the key steps in this to participate in this program. Then we can also help in testing and commissioning. And like I showed in the previous slides, we'll also be sending a day ahead scheduled hourly limits to the site. And again, also we'll continue to provide an ongoing technical and program support. And so once the customer is happy with the result, then the customer goes ahead to sign the agreement, right? And then we'll begin to do some site control system and metering, aggregator integration. You have to talk to one of our approved aggregators to be able to talk to our DERMS platform. All right, next slide. And so this is the customer journey for participating in Flexible Service Connection. Number one, we'll work with you to identify the site and check the eligibility of that site. We'll evaluate that site with our analysis. Then if you'll agree, you sign an agreement, and then you begin to build, deploy, and operate. All right. Is that the last slide, Dean, or do we have one more? Okay. So this is very important also consideration here. An ID site should be existing. Like I said, we need to update some of these numbers. It has to be an existing site with capacity constraint, or a site that wants to come online also with capacity constraint. But one very important detail here is there has to be long lead time between when the site will come online and when capacity upgrade is completed to be able to unlock the full value of flexible service connection, right? In terms of program limitation, it's not all constraint site that will be suitable for initial pilot, depending on the location and the type of constraint, right? And again, also for now, pilot is limited to constraint at the feeder head or at the bank level. We are beginning to look at some sites that are constrained at the line. Right. I think this is the last slide. I think we've talked about this in our previous slide in terms of the customer role versus a PG&E role.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation on the technology. So, we have a lot of fleet operators here. Only about 15% of the time are we seeing constraints for fleet operators at PG&E, but we do have a plan B for you, which is our Flex Connect. So it is a bridge solution. While we do our capacity upgrade work, we're able to use software and technology to bring you additional seasonal capacity to your site in advance of putting in more poles and wires, right? So it is a cool new technology. We do have customers that are already live, and we have hundreds of sites coming to us. A lot of them are public charging sites. We have factories, we have data centers talking to us. Because they really want to get all the power that they want on day one. But unfortunately, some of these loads are very, very large, right? We're talking many megawatts, right? And when they get some bad news from our distribution engineers that not all those megawatts are available on day one, then we proactively reach out to these customers and offer this brand new technology. And I can tell you that every person I've talked to about this technology has said, yes, yes, do an analysis for me. Let me know if I'm a good candidate for FlexConnect. So thank you, Michael. Appreciate your presentation. I want to give you an update on the EV fleet program. This is a program that's been running since 2018. We are currently waitlisting customers that are not DOT transit agencies. We still have funds available for public transit, and we'd like to have you apply now. Everyone else is being waitlisted. And what that means is for waitlist is they apply to the program, we do our initial evaluation to let them know if they're a candidate for the EV fleet program or not. And as we try to take them through the path to electrification. So as a reminder, the EV fleet program connects you to the grid for free. It also provides incentives for transit agencies. You guys get top tier, $9,000 per vehicle. Any type of transit vehicle, transit bus, whether it's a cutaway or a full-size bus, $9,000 per vehicle for the first 25 vehicles. In addition, transit automatically qualifies for charger rebates. And as you can see, the charger rebates are pretty extensive. So we do a 5-year outlook for EV fleet. So a 5-year outlook on your fleet, whatever that vehicle count is, you can have an equal number of chargers or power cabinet dispensers if you choose to go with power cabinets instead of individual chargers. But it's a very attractive program. It is full for non-transit right now. We're waitlisting those customers, but for transit agencies, we still have a little bit of money left, and we would love to support you with this program. If you can't do the EV fleet program, then we do have a Rule 29 as a backup, right? So this is for a new second EV service at your facility. So you've got your first meter on your facility, and you want to put in a second electric service with a second PG&E meter just for EV charging. This service, Rule 29, connects you to the grid essentially for free, but it's only for EV charging, and it does mandate to put you on our business EV rate to get started, okay? So that's one of the items there. It does give a breakdown in this document that I'm going to provide you of Rule 29 versus Rule 16. So if you've got what we call a mixed meter, you've got your building and chargers together, then that's going to be a Rule 16. If you want to separate out your EV charging from your facility, that's Rule 29, and we can provide you with a separate EV service and a separate meter, and you get to take advantage of our business EV rate, okay? And that rate will save you at least 25% compared to any other PG&E rate that we have to offer you, okay? In addition, we have our EV fleet advisory services. It is up and running. We are working with customers today. This service provides one-on-one support through electrification. It is zero cost to PG&E business customers, and we are taking applications all the way through the end of 2026. So this program is up and running. It's available for you. And here are the services that the program provides. So there's a basic level of service, items with an asterisk, and then a full level of service for customers that qualify if they're in an underserved community. Fleet Electrification 101, fleet planning study, basic capacity check. And then for making a plan, we can help get you ready prior to application, and then support for your application, whether you come in and you're an EV fleet customer, Rule 29, Rule 16 customer will help you get your project underway. And then we have a post optimization review. So we're going to check the rate that you're on, make sure that we're optimizing that. And we're going to take a look at your load management, right? And make sure that you've got a nice even load and that you're not charging during our peak, right? We're trying to avoid you from charging peak because you're going to pay at least double than charging off peak, okay? And why don't we go ahead and open it up for our attendees for any questions that they have. Moses, Michael, Yachung, can you turn on your cameras and your microphones and let's enable chat and everything else?
So there were two questions in the Q&A, and I think Moses had already answered one. That is whether PG&E contributed to Fresno's maintenance and facility project under Rule 21. So Moses, would you like to maybe share that answer again with this entire group?
Yeah, I would. And I briefly answered the question. I indicated that we're currently working on our paperwork for that. But keep in mind, with anything that we do, regardless of computers, the paperwork is still necessary. And speaking of this paperwork, we did have to fill out an application for Fleet 21. And also, there's some assurances there, options. A lot of paperwork. It's a bona fide agreement contract, but PG&E staff was available when we had questions on it. And also, there are some caveats. The chargers need to be on the UL listing approved by PG&E. However, they do make some accommodations. I know we had to have a couple of them where they do on-site UL certification so that we can get the maximum use return of our rebates available. So PG&E staff is very accommodating. They also go out of their way to answer the questions that are necessary because believe me, some of that paperwork is above my pay grade and there's a lot of legalese in there. But it is necessary to complete the process and also to get the rebates back. I know it's a long, convoluted answer, but I want to disclose everything throughout the process.
Thanks a lot, Moses. So there's another question that hasn't been answered. The question comes from Ryan. Ryan is asking, I think this is for PG&E. EV fleet is a make-ready program. Is that true? Is his understanding that if a customer avails themselves as a make-ready program, it limits their ability to develop a microgrid. Is this correct?
So the EV fleet program was originally planned to be called Fleet Ready, to make your site ready for EV charging. EV fleet program only supports the 5-year outlook of your electrification of vehicles and charging infrastructure. It does not support microgrid, solar, batteries. That comes in as Rule 21. It's a separate application to PG&E because that's bi-directional now, right? Just like VGI is bi-directional, vehicle to grid integration. So EV fleet, when it was first developed about 9 years ago, that's when the decision was made to make the program available. It was based off of just charging infrastructure. The electricity is just flowing in one direction from the grid into the vehicles. And so it's set up that way. It is a standalone electric service program that we offer our customers. And quite frankly, it's done quite well. We have exceeded all of our numbers for vehicle count, customers being served. We just have a little bit of money left to help our favorite transit agencies, and hopefully we'll get a few more from this webinar today.
Yes. So I think people are still trying to kind of wrap their head around about the new technology and how they might be able to replicate Moses' case for their site. There was also one question about if they could get everybody's contact information. I think that information is kind of a part of this entire presentation. We are also going to post this entire presentation on CARB's website under ICT. I have also posted that link in the chat. First of all, I want to make sure that everyone can see the information that we post in the chat. Okay, so okay, we have a and I also like to kind of ask if there is any raised hand, because I'm not seeing any right now.
There was one with a raised hand. I'm not able to see any participants in the chat other than yourself. Switch over to everyone.
I am monitoring the chat. We don't have a can any fleet just type something in the chat so that we can test whether you can submit? And we do have another it's another question but a comment in Q&A. So Zemin is thanking the group for this very, very helpful presentations. Is there any questions or a comment? Moses, you have your hands raised.
Yeah, I would just like to add something to the group and also PG&E personnel. If any of you would like to come to Fresno sometime, the facility's in Selma, about 16 miles south of Fresno. We welcome any visits because we think our facility is unique. It's a one-off. I think it even surprised PG&E personnel, engineers, and I know it surprised a lot of engineers, electrical engineers especially. So we welcome any visits. Please contact us and we can accommodate you for a tour and an explanation of our facility and let you know about what we would do different and also the takeaways from this project and expand on the collaborative effort with all the permitting agencies. Thank you.
I also want to add that for folks that visit Moses and his team, there are actually also, well, they do have that brand new facility with microgrid and also with the solar panels. But also on site there is also a 250 kilowatt wave charger, the wireless charger. And also if people have a chance to visit Moses, I would also like to encourage you to talk with Moses about how he handles his entire county, such vast spacious land and also low population density, how he utilizes different systems to support different needs. I think the cases in Fresno County it is unique in the way that it's innovative, it's inspirational, but also it is something that can be replicated in your jurisdiction as well. So please, I think Moses is very always shows great hospitality when people visit him. I always had this great pleasure and joy to visit multiple of his projects.
I see Ryan has his hand up.
Ryan, please go ahead. Do we need to unmute Ryan? Let me hold on for a second. Let me see if we can unmute Ryan. I didn't know that we have to unmute people, sorry. I thought that everyone Ryan, do you have to unmute yourself?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you all for all of this information. It's probably not well suited to somebody who's not an engineer like me, but it's a lot of great information that I will definitely share with my team. And thank you, Dean, for answering my question about microgrids. I did just want to clarify the thing that I was under the impression of was that if a transit agency utilized a make-ready program like yours, that somehow it made that customer ineligible to develop a microgrid, and maybe that's a misunderstanding, but just wanted to clarify that because we're in the process of planning a microgrid. But I just want to make sure that that doesn't interfere with our ability to participate in a make ready program or that sort of thing.
So for the EV fleet program, the guidance that we were giving customers is to finish your EV charging infrastructure and then apply to Rule 21 at PG&E for your solar or battery project, because they are on two separate systems. It's really been a struggle. We figured out how to make it work for one customer so far so that we can do both at the same time. But unfortunately, the program's coming to an end. It took that long to try to figure out how to bridge these processes together. But if you're doing a Rule 29 or Rule 1516, you can do them at the same time. So that's one of the big benefits of Rule 29 over the EV fleet program. It was really, the program was set up for just charging infrastructure. They didn't think of anything else at the time. And so it was kind of its own little standalone island out there. But it was an island that a lot of people wanted to get on. So as far as holding up any microgrid, no. You can do a project with PG&E and then connect a microgrid to it. The only case I can think of is if you've got off-road vehicles with dumb chargers, you cannot put solar on that system for the first 5 years because we're collecting the charging information for the EV fleet program from that meter. And if you have solar feeding that same meter, we can't see the data for the EV charging. So that's the only limitation that I can think of.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
This is also a great question, Ryan. We are also soliciting everybody's input about the topics that we want to put out for the next time. So questions like microgrid, interconnection, or maybe battery storage. I think they're kind of all connected in a way. But the different project may have to go through different process and may be intertwined with something else that has its own process. So I think this might be something that we could consider for the next webinar that we could kind of consider. So if there's some more thoughts about this or on other topics, please also feel free to reach out to the PG&E team or to myself, and we can kind of work together to figure out how to best strategize future discussions. So okay, wait a second. What about, we have another question about what about future topics on hydrogen facilities? I think hydrogen facilities will also be one of another stream of questions or topics that CARB we want to kind of touch based on. And we know that for that, PG&E also has some involvement. But also in addition to PG&E, we probably also will bring in more collaborators and more other technology providers, and also maybe some of the experienced transit agencies to share their experience with us, just like Moses shared his great experience with us today. Yes, so that is something in the planning. Yes. Anything else? Let's see. So I'm not seeing any raised hand, and I am not seeing any new questions in Q&A. So I also wonder if Moses and the PG&E team you have one last word to share with our audience.
Sure. I'll start. It's a lengthy process. You have to be patient. You have to be flexible, and the process does work. We were in it a little over 2 years. Dean knows us very well, along with his team. And I'll tell you, when PG&E tells you they're going to send out a crew to make the connection by the first of the year, and they show up New Year's Eve, digging and tearing up the road, Outsource and VPI were excellent subcontractors. They do show up when they promise you that they will, but there's a lot of coordination and a lot of collaboration, and you just have to plow through the process for everybody.
Yeah, I've got one thing to share, which is please sign up for our EV Fleet Advisory Service. This will help you on the path for electrification. We have a number of services available that can help transit agencies electrify your fleet. And so we're here, we're available. We have experience doing this type of work for many, many years. And we want to help you be successful. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Moses. These are great takeaways for the audience today. And so if we don't have any more questions or comments, I want to thank our panel for your great input, and also this is very, very informative and also very inspiring. I also want to thank the audience today for the great questions and also comments. Also, I want to thank CARB staff supporting this webinar. So thanks everyone. We hope to see you next time with other topics for discussion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.